your job hunt. And I want to kind of share one of my favorite sayings, which is, you can make more money, but you can't make more time. So to that end, I want to show you how to get the most out of this session. So the first thing I want you to do for this session is take notes. So chances are you're going to hear things that you're like, oh, that's really good. I can use that. So take notes. Second, if you stay until the end of the 15 minutes, I have a gift for you. And this is not a rubber chicken, an actual gift. And I will talk about why this is useful in the session today. And I want you to ask your questions as we go. I won't answer them until we get toward the QA period, but I want you to be able to ask your questions and, so you don't forget them. I'm famous for walking into a room and asking, gosh, what did I come in here for? So let me talk about what we're here to talk about today, which is what is going on in the future of work. What do you need to worry about? What do you need to know? What are the trends? So there are 3 trends that I want to share with you. And then there are 3 things that you think are really smart things to do that are probably not smart things to do. So the first is, let's talk about the trends. And the first trend I want you to be aware of is ghosting. Now, ghosting, unfortunately, is something that even maybe 2 years ago was really shocking. Like, oh my God, I can't believe these people ghosted me. So ghosting is doing it. And the problem with ghosting is when you get ghosted, you absolutely kind of lose it. You lose your confidence. You think, oh my God, I've just been totally rejected. If you've done any research at all, you know that the most fundamental thing human beings want is acceptance. And when you're not accepted, you get ghosted. It's really a shock to your system. So I want you to know, number one, ghosting is super common. It's happening to everyone. It's happening at the submit your resume level. It's happening after the 2 or 3 interviews level. So it's that common. The important thing here is to remember that the most valuable commodity in your job hunt, in your career, but most certainly in your job hunt, is your confidence. So adjust your expectations to understand that ghosting is now the norm. So that's the first thing you're going to see. You've probably already seen it, and very likely you're going to have to kind of be more accepting of the fact that you're going to get ghosted. Okay, moving on. The next trend that I want you to be aware of is testing. So testing is happening for 2 reasons. First of all, there's a skill test. Can this person actually do the job we want them to do? So you'll occasionally get skill tests. From the manager, senior manager, maybe director level, what you're going to see is testing for fit. So this is personality testing. And the reason you're seeing more testing is, number one, it's really expensive for someone to come onto a job. And in the first year, if they quit, the most likely culprit is a bad fit. So companies will test for fit to save themselves money. Another thing to realize is we are in a kind of a period of kind of non-accountability. So if someone quits, you can say, well, they tested well, and you protect yourself. And if you have any experience in the job market and corporate, you know that protecting yourself is really one of the top priorities. So ghosting, testing. The next thing we're going to talk about in terms of current trends is something called daylighting. Now, daylighting is really moonlighting. It is having more than one job, but this used to be something that only quote unquote blue collar workers did, or whatever. Now, white collar workers, professionals, particularly people who are able to remote work, are daylighting, which is they're accepting 2 jobs. Now, there's a quote unquote ethical aspect to this where, do you tell people? And that is not something we're going to get into in this session, but I will say daylighting is becoming more common because people can't afford to live even on a professional salary in certain cities. So it's something that you're going to see more of, and it's something you need to consider for your career. Do I want to daylight? So just Remember that that's out there. That's an option for you. Daylighting is a real thing. A lot of people are doing it. I had one person, a client, who was so popular, his skill set was so in demand that he literally hibernated his LinkedIn profile because he was being hit by recruiters so frequently and so often and so aggressively because what he was doing was super, super in demand. So daylighting, it's out there, it's happening. So that's the three trends you want to be aware of: ghosting, testing, and daylighting. And remember, the most precious commodity in your job hunt, in your career, is your self-confidence. So I want to add a kind of a bonus to this, and that is a kind of confusion that I see among my clients between the relationship between their resume and LinkedIn. So your LinkedIn comes first. Your LinkedIn is up 24/7. Recruiters will search your LinkedIn. The more active you are, the more likely you are to be found in a LinkedIn search. So a lot of people don't know how to be active. That's something I talk about in my articles on Medium. But remember, LinkedIn first, your resume second. Your resume is only going to be seen if you apply to a job, whereas your LinkedIn will be seen by many, many more people. So bear that in mind. So I want to jump now to talking about some things that job hunters do, and you think, oh, this is so smart. I'm going to do this. This is a no-brainer. And it's actually not smart. So before I jump into that, I want to pause and I want to say, if you want to get more information on how to sharpen your job hunt, if you have questions that don't get answered today, we will be talking about questions in just a minute, you can go to my Medium, CourtneyKirschbaum.com, or go to my Medium profile and read some of my articles. I pinned a few, but there are a lot of common job hunter questions and career questions that come up there. So now I want to jump, before we go, we've got about 7 minutes before we go to our QA session. And I want to talk about 3 things that seem smart but aren't. And I want to give you a tool that will help you to assess kind of where you are. So the first thing is, don't assume that just because someone has authority that they have knowledge. Don't assume that just because someone has authority that they have knowledge. And this kind of tracks back to that confidence issue. When you're job hunting, you are submitting yourself to be evaluated by somebody. And often that person, that gatekeeper, is maybe 5, 7 years out of college. This is someone who is inexperienced. They've been given a remit. Go find me a person who can do this job. And then you intersect with them at that point where you submit your resume. And typically what happens first is, or they find you on LinkedIn, whatever, is they do what is called a screening interview. So bear in mind that the person who rejects you at this stage is probably inexperienced. So they have a lot of authority, but they don't have a lot of experience or knowledge. And that is the last thing they're going to reveal to you, because it's not the kind of thing you reveal in corporate or professional environments, right? Unfortunately, mistakes are highly stigmatized in these environments. So if you don't get accepted, if you get rejected, or your resume doesn't get picked up, or you don't get a call back after your first interview, please remember that just because someone has authority, they don't necessarily have knowledge or experience. Okay, that's the first thing. The next thing that you think is really smart and really savvy, but is often a huge, huge mistake, is you ask a friend, a partner, or your neighbor, or somebody you know in HR to look at your materials. Huge mistake. And here's why. You're probably not going to get the truth from these people. It is extremely difficult to say, yeah, your resume sucks or your LinkedIn sucks. Your partner, if they have any sense at all, is definitely not going to say that. And not only are they not going to say it to protect the relationship, they may not know. Often we ask people, that we're close to, because we feel very vulnerable when we're job hunting. So if you are going to defy my advice and you do ask, use this tool. Rather than say, what do you think of my resume, or what do you think of my LinkedIn? Say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate this? That way you get an objective assessment, and they can give you a 5 without saying, yeah, this really sucks, right? So you get a number, you get something you can actually use. And then you follow it up with, assuming they don't give you a 10, what would it take to make it a 10? In this case, say to them, You don't have to answer. If you don't know what it would take to make it a 10, totally cool with that. That's fine. Because often the person you're asking, they'll know, oh, this is excellent. And they'll also know if it's not excellent, but they won't know how to get you from a 5 to a 10. And you need to make it okay for them to not know. So go ahead and add that, like, I don't know, and it is okay not to know. All right, last part. We've got about 3.5 minutes left before I go to Q&A. Someone has been where you're trying to get to. And one of the most valuable things I ever learned was a tool called a mastermind. And I did a seminar about, I don't know, 13 years ago. Before we left, the leader of the seminar said, I'm going to teach you how to mastermind, and I want you to get into a mastermind, because the most valuable information there is other people who've tried to do what you're doing, other people who've, already gone through the assessment of software, or, is Nova resume worth it? How do I get, things on LinkedIn? Whatever question you have, someone else has already answered that question. So as part of today's kind of, participation award, whatever you want to call it, I am giving a gift to everyone who has stayed, which is the mastermind, how to mastermind, and kind of the methodology and the training of how to use a mastermind. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put a call to action in your, hopefully you can see this, a call to action for you to access this mastermind tool. You can click on the link, and what you want to do is go and opt into this just like you're going to purchase it. But when you get to the purchase page, use the coupon code Medium Day, and you will get this at no cost. It is 100% up to you to do this. You have until midnight tomorrow to ask this. So let me show you what you are getting. Just 1 second here. Let's see, mastermind training. So you'll go to a page that looks like this. And if you click on any of the buttons, there are buy buttons all over this page. If you click on it, enter the code Medium Day, you can download the tools and learn how to mastermind and use other people to help you job hunt, because this is not something you want to do alone. Job hunting is extremely vulnerable, and that is something that isn't changing. So click me, use the Medium Day code, and I'm going to open up this for questions. Hopefully you can ask questions if you have them, but please access this mastermind tool because it is absolutely fantastic in terms of helping you connect with people and get answers to questions and get honest answers to questions. So I'm not seeing any questions. Let me just make sure. Okay, it is. All right, I'm just going to confirm and notify one more time. If you have any questions about your career or your job hunt, you can post them and I will be more than happy to answer them. While I'm waiting for questions to come up, I'm going to go ahead and put some answers to questions or answer some questions that people have asked me. These are kind of common questions that I get. And the first one, probably the most common one, is how long will it take me to find a job? So if you are at a manager level to a C level, it can take as long as a year for you to get a job. So hold on, just pausing my little timer here. So it can take you a year to get a job. That is aggressively applying for jobs and being active on LinkedIn so your profile is found. So set your expectations accordingly. It might take you a year. It might not. And the more active you are and the more you are reaching out to people and active on LinkedIn and applying for jobs, the more likely that time scale is going to be shortened. Another thing that's going to shorten that time scale is working with people, either a mastermind or hiring a professional to help you out. It does depend on your level. The lower level, the shorter the job, the time. The more of an kind of independent contributor you are, the more likely you are to not have a long job hunt. And the higher level you are, the more likely you are to have a little job hunt. Another question I get a lot is, do career breaks work against you? No, everybody has a career break. This kind of fantasy that, your career is this, linear, perfect line of job to job to job. Yeah, some people, it does work that way for them, but often it doesn't. So don't let that scare you. Okay, we have some questions here. David, seems like the main way to currently earn more in a corporate environment is to switch jobs rather than, that's for sure. Hold on, yes, it is. Much more likely to get a pay increase if you switch jobs. Now, you can ask for a pay increase or additional benefits. But as a rule, if you want to continue to increase your salary, the quickest way is to switch jobs. All right, the next one here, it's extremely difficult to get true feedback on an interview or resume. Yeah, from an HR representative. So I'm going to guess that you're from the States. You can always ask, and using that 1 to 10 rule is a good way to ask to get feedback. But in the States, people are so scared of being sued. So it's really hard to kind of get around that litigious web. And the first thing you learn in HR is don't you dare give feedback. So the best thing to do is, get a professional to review it. And also I've noticed that people who get their resume done, get their LinkedIn done, and then apply for jobs, and they don't immediately oh my God, it's been 3 weeks since I had my resume redone. I don't have a job. Don't necessarily blame your resume. It takes a long time in this market to get a job. So something to keep in mind. As far as creative ways, ask, use the 1 to 10 method, and understand that it is extremely difficult to get feedback from somebody. So I'm sorry, but that's unfortunately, that is the reality. Okay, so going to hit a few other questions here that I got. Here's one. Do I need to include a cover letter? This is a question that I actually answered in a Medium article, but I'll really quickly go through this. The higher level you are, the kind of less a cover letter is relevant, because people really want to talk to you. If you're going to include a cover letter, keep it short. I'm always applying for jobs, and I just applied for a job with mom.com as a project manager. They ask for a cover letter, and my rule of thumb is if they leave it, if it's optional, then you don't have to include one unless you have something to add. The biggest mistake people make in cover letters is they are way, way too long. Mom.com, 100 words. I say rule of thumb, 250 words. Keep it short and do not repeat what was in the resume. They got it. When you told them one time, that's all you need to, that's really all you need to, that's all you need to do. What do the most successful job seekers do? The most successful job seekers, I'll call it the PPM. They're patient. They understand it's going to take a while. They plan. My best clients come to me before they get laid off or before they lose their jobs. Typically, my more experienced clients do this, and they understand. So they patience, they plan, they actually get their materials in order before the layoff or the termination or whatever comes, and they understand something that many people don't think about, and that is job hunting is marketing. Job hunting is marketing. And one of my favorite sayings is, you can't see the picture when you're the frame. Even if you're a gifted writer, even if you're a gifted marketer, it's really difficult to do that for yourself. So the most, the most together clients are ahead of the game. Another thing that my most confident, remember I said confidence is the most kind of precious commodity in your job hunt. The most confident people are proactive. And by proactive, I mean they reach out to the person who will be their boss, not to the HR representative. Okay. So you want to reach out to the person who's going to be your boss. So send a note, find them on LinkedIn and send a note. Say, hey, I'm looking, here's my resume. Or you don't necessarily have to include your resume, but you can, or you can say, I'm looking, have a look at my profile. If you think we're fit, let's talk. that is really this is business, right? These people who are going to hire you are going to hire you to solve a problem. So they don't need a bunch of time wasting. Hi, how are you today? I'm job hunting. Here's my resume. If you think we're fit, let's talk. For all you know, somebody who's not advertising a job, and it takes a long time to go through the process in a company to get that advertisement out there. They may have somebody who's retiring. They may have somebody who just quit. So don't be afraid. Don't let your confidence get low. Don't let rejection kind of make you feel like a loser and not reach out. Do not reach out to HR. Reach out to the person who's going to be your boss. All right, hold on. Let me see. I'm going to minimize this and go back to my questions. How long will it take? Career breaks. Hold on. I'm just scanning. I think that is all. I think those are all the questions that I got in advance. Somebody asked me about responding to a layoff. So the first thing that I advise to people who've been laid off is there's always a panic that ensues after a person's laid off, and that is absolutely understandable. What you want to do if you've been laid off is allocate a certain amount of time or terminate it in any way. So, if you had a job and now you don't have a job, whatever the portal you went through, mourn. Give yourself a weekend, give yourself a week, but mourn. Because if you don't, you'll constantly be pushing away the emotional connection you had to that job, and you won't be able to focus fully on getting the next job. And that's not good for you. Okay. That's dangerous for you. So if you find yourself unexpectedly without a job, then what you want to do is just allocate some period where you can actually do some sort of mourning before you move on to your job hunt. So I'm still taking questions. So send your questions. And remember, if you're still here, please hit the click me. And actually I will share another screen. Let's see. That will kind of tell you where you can go. You can see a mastermind link from the CourtneyKirschbaum.com page. So you can see it there as well. And if you click on it, when you click through the payment page, enter coupon code Medium Day, and that will, there we go. That will take you to the buy page, and it will take you down to $0. So this is a $199 package. It is not a rubber chicken. It is a real program. It will teach you how to mastermind. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to leave that on the share page so you can grab that, and hopefully it'll help you with your job hunt. So the questions are still open. So if you have any questions about your job hunt, feel free to ask them. And while I'm waiting for those to come through, I'm going to go back to my question sheet and see if there's anything here that any questions that I want to cover. I talked about my top clients starting before they need to, before they actually realize that, before they actually are in the position where they're laid off. I had a client who came to me and he said, the company's about to be sold and I would like to prepare my LinkedIn and my resume in the event that it's sold. And I worked with the gentleman and prepared his resume, prepared his LinkedIn, and the announcement, because it's a huge, very well-known company, the announcement went out that, hey, this company's been sold and yada, yada, yada. Never heard another peep from him. And typically what I find is people who are kind of ahead of the game, who are proactive, end up not even needing those resources because they are the type of person who makes sure their ducks are in a row. And I'll tell you another thing that a lot of people don't realize is when a company's bought or a company's active in some way, they will go and look at your profile. So if you go and say, somebody asked me about increasing their salary. If you go to your boss and say, I want a pay raise, your boss is going to go to your LinkedIn profile. And if your LinkedIn profile is a pile, then they're going to be like, nobody's going to hire this joker. Why should I give them a pay raise? So it's not always how it works, but it is often how it works. And you can count on the fact that they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile and make an assessment about you. So if you're going to ask for a pay raise, you want to make sure that your ducks are in a row. So when they look at your profile, they're like, oh, if this person goes job hunting, they're going to get snapped up in like no time at all. And I'm going to go ahead and give them this increase. I'm not going to mess around with them because I could lose them. So if you're thinking of asking for that pay raise, if you don't want to leave, and I understand you get comfortable, you don't want to leave to get a pay raise, make sure your ducks are in a row. Make sure that you, if you're going to bluff, that you really make them think that you're holding, pair aces. All right, let's see if there are any other questions here. I think we got about 5 minutes left on our QA period. This is my first session, so I'm a little bit not cracking on the timer so well. So let's see if we have any more questions here. All right, while I'm waiting for any questions to come in from you guys, let me see if I have I'll tell you a big question I get a lot is people come to me and they say, should I use LinkedIn's open to work kind of option? And you can put an open to work banner on your picture, and then it will do a post, or you can keep it hidden. You can be open to work. You can put all the information about being open to work, but you can keep that hidden. So here's my rule of thumb on that. And of course, it's different for everybody. Depends on your circumstances. But my rule of thumb is this. If you are at a senior manager level and above, you probably don't want to publicly come out as being open to work. If you've been part of a big layoff, I notice a lot of people, the first thing they put in their open to work post is something that's defensive. Like, I was part of the big layoff you just heard about, or that was in the press. And even though I'm a really good person and a really hard worker, I still got laid off, and, it's not my fault. And you only have a few seconds to connect with somebody. And the person who's got a problem to solve and who's hiring you doesn't care. And it also makes you look insecure to say, it's not my fault, and I was just part of this huge layoff. So skip that and focus instead on what you are great at doing. And don't make excuses, and don't explain why you got laid off or what you've been doing. So if you're going to do a post, you're going to do an open to work post, make it about the other person and solving problems for them. Make it about your talent. Make it about how lucky they are that you are free and somebody's going to snap you up, and be uber positive, because anyone who's looking at your resume, your profile, or any post you make is thinking, what would this person be like to work with? That's why one of the major things I say with people on their LinkedIn profile is smile. Yes, it's super annoying. I totally get that, to be told to smile. But the first thing people look at when they see your photograph, the first thing they think of is this somebody that I would want to work with? And if you're smiling and positive and look upbeat, then they're thinking, yeah, this is somebody I'd want to work with. You might be the most pessimistic person in the world, but this is marketing, right? So you want to give the impression that it's positive. And I think we are wrapping up. I think we're down. I've got my timer here, and it says we've got about 1 minute left. So I'm gonna close out and say, use the go to the link that I put in the share screen. I'm going to put it up here again. Hold on. And use Medium Day as your code. You can also link to this from CourtneyKirschbaum.com. Just link to Mastermind. It's right there at the top of the page. Use Medium Day code, and you will be able to get this Mastermind tool. And I think it will definitely help you. I know it will, because people tell me that it is a lifesaver. People have said this is life-changing. So putting that there, show banner. There we go. Thank you so much for coming to the session today. And if you have any questions, you can hit me up via my webpage, or if you get the Medium Day gift, the Mastermind program, there's a convention in there that you can ask questions. So I've got another session talking about what it's like to be an entrepreneur, if you want to join me for that. Thank you so much for joining me for this one. Everyone, take care.